Hi everybody! Welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. Well, it's been a week since we brought you a video because last Wednesday I had surgery. I had a hysterectomy. It was outpatient. I'm home healing well. Everything went great. Everything was smooth sailing. I was able to keep my ovaries. I didn't have any abdominal cutting at all, and my pain has really been minimal since we've been home. So I want to thank everybody out there who is praying for me. Your prayers worked. Thank you so much. I felt all of them before, during, and after my surgery. Just thank you guys so much for prayers and for get well cards and emails, all of that. I really do appreciate it.
Now the hard part's going to be keeping her in line for the next 6 weeks because she's not allowed to lift anything over 10 pounds for the next 6 weeks. And that's going to be a hard part, especially when harvest season starts and things need to be brought in out of the garden. But I'm going to do my best to make sure she doesn't do more than she is supposed to.
One thing that I have been able to do, even, the day after my surgery, was to get up and come outside and walk around in the garden just to check things out and see how everything is growing. And I have to tell you that everything in the garden looks fantastic. It has just grown so much in the last couple of weeks. I'm excited to show you.
Yeah, it's been about 2 weeks or more since we've taken you guys for a walk around the garden. If you remember the last time, we actually had to replant several things that didn't really come up very well the first time. So we're excited to show you how those things have kind of made up some of the progress. So first, let's walk over to our main garden. We're excited to show you that first and see how especially the tomatoes are doing.
Well, let's start off with the green beans. Now, we actually had a rocky start with our beans this year. We had spotty germination and had to replant about 50% of all the beans that we planted. These here are the green beans. They are contender beans, and they are really making up for lost time. We have two basic heights of plants right now, and that is from the first planting and the second planting, but they're filling in really nice. Our rows in this garden are about 50 feet long. We have 2 rows of green beans. We think that's going to be a fantastic amount for our canning needs to get us through 1 year of our green bean needs for our family. We have had one kind of downer upset when it comes to beans. Let me take you over and show you. Last year we did an experiment. We planted half of a row of soybeans, edamame, that you can steam and eat fresh, and we loved it. We loved it so much that this year we decided to plant an entire 50-foot row. And these are the soybean plants here. Well, we've done 2 plantings of the soybean seeds, and we've really only gotten maybe a total of 10 plants to germinate. I don't know if that's a planting issue, a soil issue, weather, water, or if we just didn't get some good seeds this year. We're not going to give up entirely on upcoming years, but 2 times is all I'm willing to try this year. But we'll still get a few snacks from these bean plants here. We've got one more kind of beans to show you. Let's head back over. The last type of beans that we're growing this year, they're pinto beans. This is the second year we're growing pinto beans. Last year we grew 1 row. This year we're growing 2 because we just had such a good time growing them, and we do eat a lot of pinto beans. Now, this variety of pinto beans is called tiger eye. It's actually the Spanish name for tiger eye. I'm terrible at Spanish, so I'll spare you. Now, originally we got these seeds from Baker Creek, but they're not carrying them anymore. Luckily, we saved some of the pinto beans back to use as seed this year, and we'll continue to do that because we love these beans. We love refried beans, and I love to can beans. So that's what we're doing this year. Now, some exciting news. Both the pinto beans and some of the green bean plants are already producing blossoms. So So we are definitely on the right track when it comes to beans in the garden. Now the green beans are a bush type bean, so they're not gonna get really tall, they'll just get bushy. But the pinto beans, they are half runners. And you can see they're already starting to put up their vines. This is just a super exciting time of year for me to come out every morning and honestly every evening to check these guys out and see how well they're growing.
Next up is our row of cucumbers and okra. We're doing kind of a split row this year. We're doing one type of cucumber over here on this side, and then okra in the middle, and then more cucumbers on the other side. On this side is our Market More cucumbers, and they're kind of a longer, kind of traditional slicing cucumber, and just a really good prolific producer and good for fresh eating. Now you can see that these vines are really starting to take off. Last year we had a terrible cucumber year. We actually planted cucumbers 4 times last year, and every time they'd get about this big, and either they'd get overtaken by some type of pest or a borer would actually kill them at the roots and they would all just fizzle out. In previous years we've had so many cucumbers that we'd be taking 5-gallon buckets full of them to the pigs in the middle of the summer. But last year, out of 4 plantings, we got about 6 cucumbers total. So we're really hoping that this year will be a better year. We moved them back into this garden instead of the garden we had them in last year, in hopes that we'll have a better year this year. Something new that we're trying this year with all of our vining type plants are these plant clips for holding them to the trellises that we have up. I was out here a couple days ago and I did all of the tomatoes. At that time, these were not big enough yet to start using these, but as you can see today, they're starting to start to spread out on the ground, which means it's time to train them to be up on this trellis. So let's test these out with the cucumbers. These are just plastic clips. We ordered these on Amazon. And basically all you do is get your plant about where you want it. Now in the past what we've done is we've tried to kind of weave it in there, but that always gives you some risk of breaking your plant. So with these you just get it about where you want it, and then you just put one of these clips around. That secures like that, and then that will hold that to the trellis, and there's still plenty of room for the plant to be able to grow. This isn't going to cut in to the plant, but it will hold it up there so that the plant will start to grow up instead of sprawling out on the ground. We'll put one here as well. And these come in several different sizes. For these I'm using the biggest size, just because I don't want to hold them too tightly. I just want them to stay up off the ground a little bit like that. So now these will start to grow up the trellis instead of sprawling out on the ground. Next up in the garden is our okra. Now this year we're only doing one variety of okra. In the past we've done several different varieties to try out and see what we like, but we always come back year after year to one being our favorite, and that is the Clemson Spineless. It's a very common variety, but it always is a great producer. And what I like about it is it's one of the easiest to tell, when they're ready to pick. And by only planting one variety, you know that they're all, you can tell by size when they're ready to pick. So this is another thing though that we didn't have great germination with the first time around this year. We only probably had about 50% come up, so we had to replant, but now they're all doing really well. So you can see here, this is one that is from the first planting. They're looking nice and strong. And then these are from the second planting. Now I'm going to let these get a little bit bigger, and then I'll come through and I'll thin these out to just one plant per hole here in the garden. But I can't wait for these to start producing. I don't know about you guys, but I love to eat fresh okra out of the garden. When I'm out here working, I'll just pick it and eat it fresh right out of the garden. Not a lot of people do that, but I think it's awesome. I think between the cucumbers, the okra, and the tomatoes, and the green beans, I probably spend the whole day out here and never have to come in for a meal. Let's move on to the last part of the cucumbers. The second part of the cucumbers here is a variety called Dar, D-A-R. These are also from Baker Creek, just like the Market More and the Clemson Spineless. This whole row is from Baker Creek. Now the Dar cucumbers are a shorter, kind of fatter cucumber. Really good if you want to pickle them whole. Now even though we can train these to grow on a trellis, because these are a bush variety, they're not going to get very tall. They probably won't even grow to the top of this trellis, maybe only halfway up. They're going to stay a smaller, more compact plant, which might be good if you have a smaller area to grow in. So this is definitely a variety I suggest that you try. We've grown these for several years now and we really like them.
Next up is a row of one of my favorites in the garden, which are the peppers. This year we're doing one 50-foot row of peppers, a variety of peppers. Normally I do at least 2 rows of peppers, but this year we decided to really only grow exactly what we'll need for eating and what we know for sure we'll use over the next year. So for us, that means this year we'll have half of a row of bell peppers. We're growing Emerald Giant and we're growing California Wonder. And then the other half is just a mixture of some of our absolute favorite peppers. Our bell pepper plants are doing really well. They're still kind of small, but I really feel like any minute now they're just gonna shoot up in size. This garden historically has been very good for peppers. Last year's peppers were great too, so maybe we just have great pepper soil here in southern Missouri, or at least here on our homestead. They are getting lots of blossoms, so any day now we're gonna have tiny little peppers on these bell pepper plants. Let's move down a little bit so I can share with you the other varieties we have. One type of pepper that is a new favorite of ours is called Ajvarski. It's also from Baker Creek. It is a sweet pepper, but not a bell pepper. It's more triangular. Ajvarski peppers are perfect to let go red or fully ripen and then use them for roasted red peppers. So we have a few of those plants here in the garden. The nice thing also about the Ajvarski peppers is they can be used as just, bell pepper substitute. They can just be used green. They're perfectly fine for that. But the sweetness of them and the nice thick wall just lend themselves to be a perfect red roasting pepper. We grew these last year for the first time and they quickly became our favorite, not only because of taste, but they were very prolific and they grew nice and healthy. The peppers themselves are actually really big. They're like 6 or 7 inches long, nice and thick. To my surprise, we have our first Ajvarski pepper already growing. I'm so excited to see peppers already in the garden. So let's move down and see what other fun peppers we have. Next up is another awesome favorite. They are jalapenos that are not hot at all. They're called Nada Peño from Baker Creek. They're fantastic. Let me tell you that they taste exactly like a jalapeno, but no heat. So if you're someone who really likes the flavor but just cannot tolerate that spiciness, the Nada Peño peppers are for you. Our daughter Samantha absolutely loves jalapenos, can't do the heat, so these are perfect for her. Also, one of Samantha's favorites are the banana peppers. We're growing banana peppers for her also. We love to pickle them. We also love to ferment them, and they're so good just chopped up in a salad, or they're actually sweet enough that you can just eat them fresh. Next in line are some of our favorites that we've actually never grown before. When we lived in Arizona, we would always get hatch chilies. We'd get them roasted, bring them home, peel them, and eat them in a ton of our Mexican cooking. We've never grown them before, but some amazing subscriber of ours last year sent us seeds for mild hatch chilies, medium hatch chilies, and hot hatch chilies. So we have some of each of those planted here. It's going to be really fun to see how they do in our climate. Hatch chilies are really from New Mexico, so we'll see how they do in southern Missouri. I'm hoping that they'll do well. They already look fantastic. I've got some gorgeous blooms on them, so we'll see. We're testing those here in our climate. Lastly, in the row of peppers for this year are Craig's Grande Jalapeno. And we have some jalapenos already growing on here too. Look at these. Here's a nice sized one here. And then a little bit smaller one. And then several teeny tiny ones. I cannot believe how quickly these plants are getting peppers. I'm so excited to start harvesting. Plus, they're just filled with tiny little blossom buds coming. I think it's gonna be a great pepper year. So guys, that's it for the peppers this year. Even though there aren't as many as in previous years, I am just as excited.
Next up are the 3 most important rows in the entire garden, probably on the entire homestead, and that's the tomatoes. If any of you who have been watching us for any amount of time know that I love tomatoes, especially fresh tomatoes out of the garden. I've been known in the summer to even carry a salt shaker around in my pocket, so when I'm out here working, I can just pick them and eat. So let's go over what we're growing this year. This first row here is an entire row of our absolute favorite tomato. It's called Jet Star. This is the one tomato that we grow every single year, and I don't see us ever stopping. It is always a great producer, very disease resistant, and just an amazing tasting tomato. These are a slicing tomato, perfect for tomato sandwiches. Not quite as big as like a big boy or beefsteak, but a really nice sized tomato. It's always amazing to me when you first plant tomatoes that you put them in the ground and they just don't seem like they grow much. They just kind of sit there doing nothing at all, and then all of a sudden they start to explode. That's the stage that they're in right now. We did a video for you guys just a couple weeks ago showing you the tomatoes, and they were still pretty small and spindly. And just in 2 weeks, they have like just skyrocketed. I mean, look how big and strong these tomato plants look, and just how healthy and vibrant they are. And the most exciting part is we're already starting to get little tomatoes and a ton of blossoms. So I just couldn't ask for things to go better so far. I hope it stays going that way. We're making sure they get plenty of water with our drip irrigation system. We went from having a very wet spring to so far a fairly dry stretch now during the end of the spring and first part of the summer here. So we have had to use the watering system several times already, but that's fine. That's why we have it, and it does a fantastic job. So I am excited about these Jet Stars. Every year they blow me away, and I'm just excited about being able to pick that first tomato. Now this second row of tomatoes is kind of a split row. Another row of slicing tomatoes. The first half here is called Jet Setter, which is very similar to the Jet Star, but a little bit earlier of a producer. And then the second half are the Celebrities. So far, I think they're a little bit behind everything else, but we'll see if they catch up in the long run. Maybe we'll end up with 3 kind of different picking seasons here, which wouldn't be a bad thing at all. Now in our last video, we shared with you how we prune our tomatoes. We don't go overboard pruning our tomatoes. Basically what we do is we prune them so that there are no branches touching the ground. And for the most part, we're keeping up with that so far. I do need to come through like this one here. You can see it's almost to the ground. I'll come through later today and I'll just look at all the plants, and any that look like they're going to be touching soon, I'll clip off. But that's about all we do for pruning. I know a lot of people will go through and take off a lot of the branches and really prune their tomatoes back so that they get bigger tomatoes. In our experience, by leaving them more natural like this, you get way more tomatoes. Even though they may not be quite as big, you come out ahead pound for pound by pruning them this way and just letting them grow in a more natural way. There's no right or wrong way. It's personal preference, so I'm not saying that our way is the right way, but this is how we do it, and we tend to have very good tomato harvests. And it's really less work because you don't have to be out here doing as much pruning. Let's go over to the third row of tomatoes. We'll show you what we're growing over there. Our last row of tomatoes is a row of paste tomatoes. Now if you're not familiar with what paste tomatoes are, They're basically varieties that have a lot less moisture in them, a lot less water content. So when you're making things like sauces and pastes, you don't have to cook them down as long. This year we're doing one of our favorite varieties, which is called Opalka. It's an heirloom variety that we've had very good success with. Seems to be very disease resistant and just a real hardy variety here for us in our environment. After that, we're doing a new variety this year that we're testing out that someone sent us called Salvatierra. It's also supposed to be a very prolific paste tomato, so we're excited about trying that. And then finally in this row, we're doing just a few plants of a variety called Dad's Sunset. If that sounds familiar to you, it's because it's the one that we grew last year to provide seed to Baker Creek Seed Company. Last year we grew an entire row of those so that we could provide seed back to Baker Creek. We kept a few of the seeds for ourselves so we could grow some again this year because they were a very good variety. They're a yellow tomato, but very big and just a great tasting tomato. The very last thing in this row isn't a tomato at all. It's actually a tomatillo. We put just a few plants down here at the end, but they are just going bonkers over here. Look how big these are getting, and look at all the blossoms. There's actually already a tomatillo on the plant right here, and it looks like a bunch of more of them coming on. So we're excited about this. We love to make some green salsa, and these few plants will at least give us a chance to make some fresh over the summer.
Well, next up is our row of butternut squash. Well, they're actually called Canada crookneck squash, but they're a butternut type squash. I'm excited to try them for the first time this year. We love butternut squash, and we've heard that this variety is particularly resistant to the squash bugs. Now, I also wanted to show you that I have a chair out in the garden to prove to you that I haven't just been working out here when I should be resting. I've been sitting out here while Kevin works. I've been keeping him company, and I just can't stay out of the garden. So we got a chair out here for me so that I can rest but still enjoy the garden. We did 2 plantings for these Canada crookneck because some of them didn't come up, but now they're just going bonkers. Kevin has already used those clips that we showed you to start training some of these the running branches to start going up this trellis. I just noticed too that when I sat down here, there's a baby squash plant starting, and I'm so excited. Now it hasn't flowered and it could shrivel up and die, but I'm so excited that they're starting to come. Now, so far we haven't seen any squash bugs and we haven't seen any cucumber beetles, which is a miracle in itself. Years before, we were just inundated with them in this garden, which is why we actually moved almost our entire garden for the summer plants to our other garden last year. They may show their awful, horrible heads, and we'll try our best to get rid of them and stomp them and find their eggs and squish their eggs, but so far we haven't seen either of those guys. So these squash are doing really great, and the cucumbers also are doing so great. At the back of the garden, we have 2 rows of sweet potatoes. We have garnet and jewel sweet potatoes, and they're doing so well. We started all of these sweet potato slips in jars of water in the house in a windowsill, and popped off the little branches as they grew off the potatoes, rooted them in water and planted them in the garden. They're doing so well. They have grown so much in the last couple of weeks. They're just exploding. Both kinds are starting to vine out, and really this is the best they've ever looked in our gardens. They're just so green and so healthy. You can just see how wonderful they're doing. This is the first year that we are growing sweet potatoes underneath this woven weed fabric. And we've gotten a lot of concerns and questions from some of our viewers about whether or not that's going to be successful. We are actually taking advice from some of our friends, Ben and Andrea from VW Family Farm. They have a YouTube channel, check them out. Last year, they grew their sweet potatoes underneath black plastic, and they harvested almost 600 pounds of sweet potatoes. So I am not discouraged at all about all of these vines and how well they're gonna do. Well, we have 2 more things that we're so excited to show you in the other garden. Let's go.
We're in our second garden. Now this garden is actually exactly the same size as our first garden, except in this garden we're only growing 2 things this year. We're growing watermelon and sweet corn. So let's start with the watermelon. We're growing 2 varieties this year. The first one is the same variety we grew last year that did amazing for us. We harvested, I think, over 30, almost 30-pound watermelons, between 25 and 30-pound watermelons last year, which was awesome. They're called strawberry, and they're an heirloom variety from Baker Creek. The only downside to them is that they do have a lot of seeds, but the flavor makes up for it. They were just amazing. And then the second variety that we're trying for the first time this year are called Crimson Sweet. They're more of a round watermelon instead of a longer watermelon, and a little bit smaller than the strawberry. They should be more in the 15 to 20 pound range. So we're excited to try those. We're hoping that they'll ripen at 2 different times, so we'll have kind of an extended season. So all we have to do now is wait. Watermelon don't come due until closer to the end of summer, unfortunately, but I'm excited to get these growing again. The drip irrigation is working perfect for these. Let's walk over to the sweet corn. This is the first year that we've gotten serious about trying to grow any real amount of corn. We're doing a variety this year called Peaches and Cream, which is a variety that is supposed to do very well here in our climate. It's what a lot of the locals around here grow year after year, so we figure it is a good variety for us to start with. We planted 16 50-foot rows of sweet corn, which some of you have told us is going to be way too much sweet corn, but we wanted to hedge our bets in case it doesn't all do well. We wanted to have plenty. So we'll see. What we're hoping to do is have plenty for fresh eating, plenty to can, and then some maybe to sell or give away to friends and neighbors. And then if there's still some after that that we haven't used, we'll let it dry right on the stalks so that we can use it either as to grind up for corn flour or to use as animal feed. So we're excited about this. Now this is the only section of the garden where we haven't used the woven ground cover. So we have it is a little more work. We're having to keep up with the weeds, but I do have a small cultivator that I'm able to come right down the rows with and at least keep the weeds out from in the rows. Right close to the corn is a little bit harder because of the drip irrigation. You need to be careful so you don't accidentally cut that. But in between the rows, I've been able to keep them out pretty good with my cultivator. So I'm excited about that. And I think soon these will be big enough that they'll start to shade out a lot of those weeds anyway. Now, along with these 2 gardens, we also have 3 raised beds full of potatoes, a big raised bed full of onions, and about 50 of those big Crystalix tubs full of things that we're growing this summer. So we could spend all day showing you guys the things that we're working on, but for today, that's where we're gonna end this video.
It's actually time for me to go rest. I'm feeling a little bit tired, a little sore, so I need to listen and go rest. So you guys, thank you so much again for praying for me during my surgery and now during my recovery. We really appreciate it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button below because we're going to keep bringing you videos about how all this stuff is doing and just about stuff that we're doing around here on the homestead.
You guys help me remind her that she needs to stay slowed down even as she starts to feel better.
Yeah, I know. I'll do it. It's hard, but I'll keep doing it. Until next time, you guys, thanks so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.
God bless.